for emotional eating, it's really just like this inability to be present with whatever's happening in that moment. And if we really start to pay attention, like if we feel lonely or bored or anxious or scared or frustrated or disappointed or jealous, like it's just so easy to go to food because we want to, very innocent response, we want to try and change the way that we're feeling by doing something else. And that something else for many of us is just eat. It's just so easy.
Welcome to PS Live, where we talk about motherhood, fatherhood, and all that other good shit. I am your host, Jessica Shari, but you can call me Jess. Today we have a special guest, Miss Cina Hoey. She is of Cina Hoey Wellness. She is a psychotherapist, a Reiki master. Did I say that right?
Reiki. Mm-hmm.
Reiki master, and a meditation teacher. She specializes in binge eating disorders, body image issues, anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you for that intro. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So today I kind of wanted to talk about kind of emotional eating and things, but let me just start with you. How did you kind of even get into this field?
Yeah, so I've been a psychotherapist for a while now, but I've started to hone down my practice into helping women with binge eating, emotional eating, body image issues, because it's something that challenged me for a long time. So that's kind of led me on my own journey of personal growth, spiritual growth, healing. And along the way, I've developed this system that I've learned to share with others so that I can help other women through this, which is just awesome.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Because you don't even realize a lot of the problems or the issues that people deal with, ultimately you get the grace to get through it so you can help somebody else get through theirs.
Exactly. And that makes it a gift, like I can look back and say like that was a gift, and that's how you can transform it into something beautiful and helping other people through it. So it was definitely not a fun journey as it was happening. You're never like in the middle of a binge eating episode like, oh my God, what a gift this is. Like that was not happening at the time. It's miserable. It's agony. It can affect your life so much to be caught in these cycles. So I'm really grateful to be on the other side, and helping women do the same thing is just so rewarding.
Absolutely. So what do you think are some of those triggers that cause that emotional eating or that binge eating?
Yeah. So there's some things that will like almost inevitably lead to binge and emotional eating, but I want to make like a distinction too. I think like, so binge eating is when you're eating so much at once, you're eating really quickly, you're eating in secret because you're like so embarrassed about what you're doing. And it feels really out of control. Like some women will say like, it feels like it's not even me. Like all of a sudden, like half the ice cream is gone or something. And you feel really ashamed about it afterwards. So that's binge eating. And then emotional eating is when we eat just to cope with difficult feelings. And so there can be like a million different triggers for that, like no matter what phase of life we're in, no matter what we're going through, like there's always shit that comes up and like that is gonna trigger us or stress us out. For the binge eating, the trigger is almost always negative thoughts about our body.
Okay.
Because those negative thoughts about your body will lead you to seek a diet, And then once you start dieting, that puts into play this sequence of events that leads to binge eating, because your body, like you do like the restricting thing. As soon as you start dieting, your body goes into like the survival mode, messes with your metabolism, messes with your mind a lot and your thoughts. So it's like negative thoughts about the body. Then I go like for a diet to try and fix my body or make it look better in some way.
Right.
And then my body goes into a survival mode, and then I'm binge eating in no time. For emotional eating, it's really just like this inability to be present with whatever's happening in that moment. And if we really start to pay attention, like if we feel lonely or bored or anxious or scared or frustrated or disappointed or jealous, like it's just so easy to go to food, because we want to, very innocent response, we want to try and change the way that we're feeling by doing something else. And that something else for many of us is just eat. It's just so easy.
Right. No, absolutely, absolutely. And then, of course, I deal with moms a lot.
Uh-huh.
Whereas when you're overwhelmed, the kids are screaming. Maybe you got like
Oh,
spouse. It's just so easy to just go for those cookies or go for what.
there is a billion different triggers for a mom in one day. Like I
Yeah,
have like the majority of my clients are female and they're moms, and we're on our coaching sessions, and like their kids are like, like climbing on them. They're saying hello. They're like making noise. They want to be involved. Like, it's chaos. Like there's so much going on with kids. And then there's just so many other stressors that come into play. And yeah, it is just so easy, especially at the end of the day. It's like, it's my secret quiet time,
right.
like I'm just gonna eat, I'm gonna watch a show, or everyone's asleep, like I can finally relax, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. No, I definitely, I definitely know that personally.
Sure. Yeah, we all do.
Yeah. So, what do you think? So, going back to binge eating, how you said once you start, you have that thought. Okay, I need to get my body back. I don't like how I look. I don't
Yeah.
feel good. So I would go for the diet, but ultimately it leads to like binge eating. So, what are some healthy ways of kind of coping with that, or kind of changing your perspective on, before you start that process?
Yeah, sure. So first, I think you have to have the courage and the willingness to not just go for the diet.
Yeah.
And that's not easy, because it's really just cultural at this point. It's
Yeah.
so deeply ingrained that it's like, if I gain weight, then I go on a diet. Like that's just what we've all learned. And there's plenty to choose from. It's like, I don't want to restrict my carbohydrates, so I'll try the Mediterranean diet. Or I don't like blah, 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 so I'll try the keto diet, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. I'll count my calories. I'll count my macronutrients. I'll go paleo. I'll go vegan. I'll go keto. I'll do Weight Watchers. I'll do Jenny Craig. I'll do Octavia. Like there's a million and one things that you can choose. And it's really, really tempting. So I think that we need to come to a different way of dealing with that fear that comes up about my body's not okay. We have to shift our relationship to our thoughts and our feelings and learn how to be present with distress. We
Yeah.
have to learn how to be okay when we don't feel okay. We have to drop perfectionism
Hmm.
and thinking, and we have to also drop these judgments that thin is better. Like
Yeah.
that's also something that's just cultural at this point. There's been so much research done on people's perception of being thin versus being overweight. And unfortunately, like it's a huge misconception that if someone is overweight, they are unhealthy.
Right.
Like I had a client just the other day saying like, yeah, I've had blood work done. Nothing has ever really come back negative, but my doctor still tells me to lose weight.
Mm.
And it's like, why? Like, so we have to question the whole system of like, do I really need to lose weight? Or like, where am I even getting that from? And then I think we need to radically change our approach. It's about transforming your relationship with food rather than listening to somebody else that doesn't know you tell you what to do and what to eat.
Absolutely. 'Cause like you said, falling into those traps, especially I recently, I just had my daughter, I have two children. I just had my daughter. She's I think she just turned 3 months. So of course it's
Oh.
like I know little people. She was a surprise for sure. But falling into that mindset of okay, I need to snap back immediately. I need to get
Oh,
my body back. I'm looking at, like you said, uh,
totally.
the diet. I'm trying to see like, okay, what should I do?
Yes.
But like you said, changing your mind about if I'm healthy, and it's
Right. And just letting go of this idea that like we should all look a certain way.
yeah.
Like I was reading a statistic somewhere that like tall thin body type represents 3% of the population.
Wow.
Like, and that, like, I'm 5 feet tall. Like that goal is just like not there. Like, is not happening for me in this lifetime. So, um, we have to stop striving for that. And then when we are seeing that we have an unhealthy relationship with food, like if we're overeating, if we're binge eating, we're night eating, we're compulsive eating, we're eating emotionally, there are ways to work with that so that it doesn't become a problem for us. And that's what I teach in my programs about like mindful and intuitive eating.
Mm. Okay.
So it's not dieting, it's
Right.
just like a whole new approach to learning how to listen to yourself, how to listen to your body as the number one authority on what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. Like historically, we've all looked externally for that information.
Mm.
And that's when it backfires. But to learn to eat intuitively and to eat with mindfulness and a lot of present moment attention to your food totally changes your relationship with food. And then eventually your body finds its rhythm, your body finds its natural set point. There's no more yo-yo dieting where the weight's up and the weight's down. No more on the wagon, off the wagon. Like that's like such a huge thing for us, right? It's like I'm either being really good or I'm totally out of control. And I did that for a long, long time.
Yeah. No, I absolutely, absolutely know what you
You're with me. You're with me.
I'm right there. Seriously. Like you
It's
said,
just,
it's that need to want to that perfectionism type of element. Like you said, it's just like, oh, I have to be perfect. I have to be good.
mm-hmm,
And I'm being good that I'm eating like this or I'm doing these things that society tells me I'm supposed to be doing.
exactly.
Yeah. Um,
Exactly.
so, and one thing you said in dealing with that, we can look into ourselves, and then also sitting within our emotions and just
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging, okay, I don't feel okay right now. This is,
Yep.
what are some other practical um, ways you can kind of break those cycles, or what does that look like on just a normal day if you're frustrated or something? Uh,
Yeah, sure. So the program and the system that I've developed to help women to stop binge and emotional eating is called Binge to Balance.
okay.
And I'm all about balance because when we eat like in a dysfunctional way, it's pretty much always like our own attempt at balancing ourselves. It's the way that we think that we're going to regain our emotional equilibrium. So when you get frustrated or you get sad or you get lonely or angry or whatever, you stray from your emotional equilibrium.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff that we can do to bring ourselves back to the emotional equilibrium. Within the program is a lot of mindfulness. Um, I don't know how familiar you are with mindfulness practices, but mindfulness teaches you to be with your thoughts and feelings and just be okay with whatever's happening.
Yeah.
It's like here's the present moment, and that's okay. Here's how I feel, and that's okay.
Right.
One of my favorite books about mindfulness is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And in it, he says, everything is okay when I'm okay with everything. So part of it is just being like, this feeling is here and that's all right. The average lifespan of an emotion is 90 seconds.
Wow.
We fluctuate. We have 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. So there's constant input, and the same um, sequence happens with every thought. I have a thought that creates an emotion. Once I have that emotion, I have accompanying body sensations. So within this trifecta of thoughts, feelings, body sensations, there's a lot of room for us to get out of balance. But then there's also like the more awareness we have of that, which is why I'm so big on mindfulness, it's you raise your self-awareness. You will notice when those thoughts are going downhill. You'll notice when that anxiety starts up as soon as it starts up. So then in addition to learning to just be with what is and be in this mode of non-fixing and not needing to perfect the moment and just allowing stuff to not be okay, there's also a lot of other really more active practices to help you self-regulate, like emotional freedom technique, which is also known as tapping, a lot of self-compassion practices I teach, um, and then a lot of practices to regulate the nervous system, like certain breathing practices and things like that.
Okay, that's that's awesome. I like you said, just being mindful. I think I've started when I get frustrated or different things, kind of like taking that moment, but not to that level just yet. Like starting to keep that inner peace to yourself. Like, okay, it's a shit show happening right now.
Totally.
It's just what it is. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Let it be a shit show.
right?
Like not every moment should be like perfectly in alignment.
Right.
And when we try too hard to get ourselves back to a place where we feel okay, this is when we reach for food and substances and shopping and social media and all the like all of us have ways that we turn away from the moment.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I I'm so happy to talk to you today. Quite frankly, it was so random
Oh,
in the first place. But I think this is so, so important because, like you said, a lot of your clients are moms, and moms, especially women, especially, deal with this without even realizing that's what's happening to them. And it's
totally.
you get that knowledge to know, okay, this is what's actually happening in my thoughts, in my mind.
Mhm.
Like you said, even that you think something, it goes to emotion, and then you have the physical sensation. That's
Yes.
that's crazy because most people don't even realize that's what's actually happening with them.
Totally. And it's that sequence of events, that thought, feeling, body sensation that then leads you to want to do something. It leads you to want to act in a certain way. So one of the ways that I help women to like start to dissect why they're eating emotionally, because like I said, like the triggers for binge eating are almost always obvious to me. The triggers for emotional eating are endless.
Yeah.
Like so and so knocked over the lamp and I was stressed, and like I have bills to pay, and I gained weight and the scale went up, and I have that social function and I don't know what to wear. I don't feel good in my clothes. Like there's just like this endless list. Anything in your life can be stressing you out. So I'll teach people like let's do some trigger tracking. Let's figure out, when did you get out of balance today? Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it is about the weight. Sometimes it's like I stepped on the scale and I was up 12 pounds from a couple of months ago. And so then you go through that process. What were your thoughts? I was thinking, oh my God, I'm so disgusting and I'm out of control. What were the feelings that came up when you thought about that? I felt anxiety, I felt anger, I felt shame. Okay, what did your body feel like in that moment? There was a tightness, there was a tension, there's a knot in my stomach. Okay, what did you want to do in that moment? I wanted to not eat for the rest of the day. And okay, is that what you did? And she'll say, yeah. And then I'll say, okay, how'd that work out for you? And she'll be like, I was binge eating like the next day, or I couldn't handle it or whatever. And sometimes the triggers are not so obvious. Sometimes it is something that has absolutely nothing to do with food.
Mm.
A lot of women that I work with get stressed out from like professional situations, like if they have a meeting with their boss or they have a deadline, or imposter syndrome, not feeling like they're good enough to do the work that they do and things like that. So I'll say like, okay, like let's go through that. Okay, so I had this meeting with my boss on Tuesday. That was the trigger. Okay, what were your thoughts? And she'll say, like, after the meeting, I was thinking, like, oh my God, that didn't go well. He probably is going to fire me or something like that. Emotions are stress, worry, anxiety, um, regret, wishing I would have said something different. The body sensations are like this nausea or this discomfort in the body. And then, okay, what did you want to do in that moment? I wanted to quit my job. I was like, okay, well, what did you actually do? I went home and I stopped at the drive-thru on the way home and I got McDonald's and some ice cream and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes it's obvious, like tracking your triggers, and sometimes it's not. But if you do that frequently enough and you gain enough awareness, you'll start to see some trends.
Yeah.
And you'll start to see that it's not just your body and your weight that stresses you out that leads to negative cycles with food. Sometimes it's other stuff.
Right. No, for sure. Um, that that was great. I can we switch over a little bit to just, we talked about it a bit, but body image issues, like
Sure.
especially as women growing up, young girls, you start to have those
Mm.
issues. So when people have those deeper issues that lead to the way they think about themselves, which causes everything, how do you kind of break those cycles?
Yeah, that's a great question and something so important because so many of us feel like that. And so many of us feel like no matter what our body looks like, we think that it should look another way.
Yeah.
So if someone who's tall and thin wishes like, I wish I had a bigger butt, and if someone who is short and has that bigger butt wishes I was tall and thin, like we're just never satisfied. So I think that takes a little bit of rewiring on your process. I don't think that most people even realize how conditioned and brainwashed we are to think that thin is good. So every billboard, every magazine, everyone on Instagram, that's by the way, when my body issues started to really plummet was when I joined Instagram. And
Mhm.
I like was following like these fitness girls and whatever. Like I just felt terrible about myself. I didn't need to start dieting in the first place. I was like average. I was very stressed about grad school at this particular juncture in my life where binge eating got really bad. But like it didn't need to be that crazy about my weight, but I was. So I think that we need to start to challenge our thoughts. Like, is it true that I really need to lose weight? Is it true that thin is better? Is it true that men aren't going to like me with this body? Like, that's another thing my clients always say, like, I can't date yet. I can't date until I lose 10 pounds or something. I'm like, girl, you're dating this weekend. Get your ass on one of those Hinge apps or whatever we got to do. Like you're worthy, you're beautiful. So
Absolutely.
working on that self-compassion and that kindness towards yourself is like a radical shift because we've just been taught to criticize and judge ourselves. So I'm huge on self-compassion. And when you catch yourself having those negative thoughts about yourself, saying something to yourself like, no, no, stop it. Like, this body is good enough. This body is good just the way that it is. And like learning to retrain your thoughts, learning to question where these beliefs come from. Like, where did I learn that I should be thin? Like, who told me that? And for a lot of my clients also, it's conditioning from their family.
Yeah.
I have a client who said her mom put her on Weight Watchers at like 9 years old or something like that. And they remember being bullied
Right.
like by family members and also by peers in school. So we have to challenge that conditioning. All of us collectively have to challenge this idea that we should all be thin. This is not true. And in other times throughout history, having a bigger body was considered like good and beautiful, and it was a symbol of your wealth that you could afford to eat. Like it's just this weird time that we're in, that we're comfortable now. Like we're so blessed that we don't have to be in like a time where starvation is a real thing for people in our country. We are so blessed about that. And it's just so ironic that now is the time that we have everything we could ever need. We don't have to starve. We don't have to hunt for our food anymore. We don't have to worry about money that we're going to starve, most of us. yet we're trying to restrict our food intake. Like this is like we're like the first generation to be like, no, I don't want to eat too much. It's like, it's completely counter to our survival instincts of when food is available and when my body needs it, I eat. So
Trying
it's so
to
many things.
element of perfection that's not even real. Like it's not
Totally.
even like obtainable. Those people don't even look like that. But
Totally. And then we also have to ask ourselves, like, who the hell am I trying to impress?
yeah,
Like, who is it? Who am I afraid is judging me? And so often it's like when I ask someone that, they'll say like, oh, I'm afraid, guys that I want to date are going to judge me, or I'm afraid that other women are judging my body, or I'm afraid that my mother
yeah,
is judging my body, or something like that. And then I'll like whittle it down deeper and deeper and deeper. And like eventually they're like, I'm afraid of my own judgment. Like I can't look myself in the mirror. So we work with the level of thought. We also, another thing is that just the act of dieting, like, does like so much damage to our confidence in ourselves
that's
because we fail.
right.
Because diets are not sustainable,
They're not
because we can't stay at that small size for too long, because we just can't tolerate it. We can't not eat pasta for the rest of our lives, like, or I can't. I certainly cannot. Um,
no.
so so just transforming your relationship with food too. Like I love watching women get more confident before their body even changes, just because they stopped dieting and they started to listen to themselves. They started to gain some more trust in themselves. It's like it's a trickle down effect when you stop dieting.
So do you think it's if you did just want to lose a couple pounds or whatever, but you love who you are in general, it's more effective when it's easier to lose weight after that instead of like hating yourself and you're doing this because you hate yourself.
1,000,000%. We think that if we judge and criticize ourselves enough, we will essentially like beat ourselves into submission. Like if I accept my body the way it is, it'll never change. But that's total crap. And it's actually the reverse is true. Once you accept your body as it is, once you are nicer to it, once you are kinder to it, once you learn to eat in a way that feels really natural and in a way that really nurtures your body finds its natural set point, whatever that may be. And that's different for all of us too.
Absolutely. That's so good. So good. Because you don't realize that. And you don't realize that. I think that happened to me when I was younger. I've always hated my body. I've always been
Mm.
like chubby and whatever growing up. And then, of course, I had the tall, skinny sisters or the
Ugh,
nicely shaped sisters or whatever and stuff. And I was like, why? Why am I this way? And then around high school, I kind of just was like, whatever, I'm me. And then I
yeah.
myself kind of like my body just formed how it was supposed to and kind of thinned down. Now having kids, it's whatever it is. But I actually learned to love my body more once I had kids because I was like, look what my body is able to do and all that.
That's so
I was like,
beautiful.
oh, this is really cool. But I know that's kind of the opposite for a lot of moms, though, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is such an important shift too, about like, what am I proud of this body for? Like, and that's another antidote to those negative thoughts about your body and thinking that your body has to change. Like, what am I capable of? That's another thing that when I have clients that are heavier, a little bit overweight or a lot overweight, I ask them, like, what can your body do? Like, can you get up? Can you move? Can you do a sit up? Can you push and pull and jump and walk and do these things? And that's a much more accurate measure of health, by the way, than whatever the number is that you see on the scale.
Right. And that number is so relative because even I was looking at the like the obesity scale and stuff for like my side. I'm like, that's so some of those
It's ridiculous.
like that doesn't make sense. I'm 5'6", but the weight that they would have me at to be completely fit and completely healthy, I'm like, that's not even
And I'm so
for me.
sad. that like the medical profession is still using charts like that
Yeah.
that just don't reflect or are not an accurate measure of health and make people feel terrible about themselves. Like we're not all going to fit into these boxes. We have to stop expecting ourselves to do so. It's ridiculous. And that's another part of where the conditioning comes from, is like doctors telling us, oh, you have to lose weight. Oh, but my blood work is perfect. Yeah, but you should still lose weight because you don't fit into this little range in this chart. Like it's ridiculous.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, okay, shifting gears a bit, you do also specialize in anxiety and depression and things like that.
Mhm.
Uh, how would, I guess, I mean, we could still talk about like binge eating though, when that trigger is your depression or when that trigger is your anxiety, how you deal with situations like that.
Yeah, sure. Anxiety and depression are best treated within like a nice safe therapeutic relationship. So if you are having anxiety or depression, I would absolutely encourage you to, or anyone listening, to find a skilled therapist to work through that stuff with. You should not be doing that alone. And binge eating and anxiety and depression can sometimes overlap so much that it can be really confusing to know whether the binge eating is causing anxiety and depression or whether anxiety and depression are causing the binge eating. So if it is the case that it is anxiety and depression, you need a skilled therapist. You need to learn how to relate to your thoughts differently. You need mindfulness practices. You need dialectical behavior therapy. You need other trauma relieving practices. Like for many of us, especially women that are binge eating, we have trauma in our past. We had a loss or a disappointment or an abuse or a neglect or something that is fueling both depression, anxiety, and also binge eating behaviors. So I would say that you want to find a therapist or a coach who's knowledgeable about all of it and who can help you dissect, like, what is coming, how much of this anxiety is coming from your weight. Like I'm thinking back to when I was the most like neurotic about my weight, and it was like mid 20s, and I in my early 20s, I started graduate school. And the stress of that led me to do a lot of stress and emotional eating. And so then I was gaining weight. And then I was like, I need to go on a diet. And I hired a fitness coach to help me achieve the body of my dreams. And he did. Like he taught me how to count my macronutrients, and I counted, weighed, tracked, and measured every single thing that I ever ate. I got extremely thin, and I thought that that was what was going to make me happy. And in my head, I had all of this stress saying, like, if I just lost this weight, I would be happy. Then I wouldn't be depressed. And turns out that when I actually got down to that really thin frame, I had more anxiety than ever because I was afraid of gaining any weight back. So I wish somebody would have like given me the heads up that hitting my goal weight like would not mean that like unicorns come flying out and like men line up to marry you and like everything becomes beautiful. Like it's just not that way. And for me, unraveling binge eating and emotional eating and starting to just like eat intuitively actually lessened a lot of anxiety and depression for me. But there can still be trauma and things to work through, even if you stop binge eating, you regulate yourself, you heal your relationship with food and with your body. So don't expect that once you stop emotional eating, life is perfect. But the short answer to your question after that rant is that you need the necessary tools. Like we all need to learn how to manage anxiety, how to regulate our nervous system naturally with breathing practices, with mindfulness exercises, with therapy techniques, and all these things that you will learn from someone who knows how to do
Absolutely. That was an amazing answer. I love for it. Go. Because I love hearing people's stories and how they've overcome their issues and things because that's so there's so many people who go through the same thing and you wouldn't even know because you just don't even think
Totally.
about it, you know, and
Oh
just
my God. Yeah.
my platform
Yeah.
literally so no parent feels alone because you feel so alone in some of these issues or these situations.
Yes.
Like,
And that's also how many women come to me feeling like, oh my God, Cina, like there's something wrong with me.
mm,
Like there's real, like I'm a mess. Like there's really something wrong with me. And I'm like, no, there really isn't. Like you're just human and you're so not alone. But we feel that way. I felt so ashamed when I was like in like I binge ate for most of my life. But there was that time period where it was particularly bad. I didn't want to tell anyone. It was embarrassing. And now I laugh because I like blast this stuff all over social media, like talking about that time I binge ate, blah, 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 and was hysterically crying on my bathroom floor the next morning when my jeans didn't fit, you know?
yeah,
Um, I think that connection is so important. What you do
yeah,
is so important, giving women a space to know you're not alone. I'm going through the same shit you are, or I have been through it, you know?
really,
We all need to learn how to put our shame aside and just be easier on ourselves.
yeah. And then you heal that way. Like speaking about it absolutely heals you. When I started
Ah,
this, I literally pushed. I created this whole platform while I was dealing with postpartum depression and just being ashamed of
wow.
myself because I ended up dropping out of. I went to a trade school to do film and media things like that. I got some
Oh,
jobs. I was working on sets, flying around the country, all that. And then
oh,
I decided to go back to school for animation. You know, and I had to drop out of school because I got pregnant. And I
oh.
just felt so ashamed of myself. I was just,
Mm-hmm.
going through it. Once I had him, I was still like, okay, I'm not doing anything. I ended up just being a stay-at-home mom, and I was like, all right, this is, I can't do this. But I pushed through and pushed all of these videos out and pushed all of this content out during those periods, and I realized I became so whole after the fact because I was sharing my story, because I was sharing, hey, today sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, this is what
Exactly.
I'll talk about with pregnancy because I never heard of this. So maybe you haven't
Hmm.
either. And this, um, it's absolutely a healing process for sure.
Yeah.
And then what would you say with everything going on in this country, the COVID, everything, and everybody's kind of at home? Isn't it easier to kind of like just go to that binge eating or whatever because everybody's emotions are high for
You
sure?
know what? I was thinking just yesterday, like I was food shopping, and I was thinking if this pandemic would have happened 5 years ago, I think I would have just binge ate the whole time.
Yeah.
Like I think I would have just totally lost my shit and just eaten every single day, binge ate every single day. Because it is your home. There's so many triggers here. There's fear and anxiety. There's like a scarcity mentality, like there's not enough for me. And all of those things can lead us to eat and lead us to just regulate our emotions with food. And then especially if we're isolated, I've seen like this spike in depression in my clients too, because we just don't have the usual outlets that we usually have, and the connection and just seeing people. If we used to go into an office and now we're home by ourselves, especially if we're living alone. And then even if we're not living alone, for some of us that are living with family, we're triggered because we have no outlet away from family, because a blend is necessary. I need alone time, I need solitude, and then I also want time with my family. Just don't want 24 hours a day with them. Um, so I would say that this is the best time to put some work into yourself. This is the best time to take this as a reset. This is the best time to learn really everything I teach, and healing your relationship with food and your body is about taking care of yourself. And maybe that means that you have a little more time on your hands right now. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't, but this is the best time to do it. We are all in a crisis. We are all in this state where we're seeing that like things can change in any moment. And stress and fear have become like a normal, everyday part of our reality. So during times like this, we can use this and these moments as a practice, as a way to start getting comfortable with what is. And that's like a really common phrase in mindfulness, is like being with what is.
Yeah.
And the reality is right now there's global pandemic. I'm restricted in what I can do socially. I'm home by myself a lot. I have the opportunity to just eat. There's not too many things that are very fulfilling to me right now. So we can use this time. We can use all of the stress and we can just practice learning how to relate to stress differently. We can, if we do have extra time or we have more time at home, for some of us, that means like we don't have a commute anymore. Like I have an extra hour in my day now. Like, what are you going to do with that hour? Like maybe you can do some journaling or reflecting or exercising or walking or whatever it that works for you. It's different for everybody, the ways that we find our relief and our ways that we can comfort ourselves outside of food, but that's possible for every one of us.
Absolutely. I have enjoyed speaking with you so much. Like I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy because I absolutely love conversations like this. I really do. Um, can you tell the people where they can find you? Um,
Yes.
and
Absolutely, I would love to. So my Instagram is Cina Hoey Wellness. You can find me on Facebook, Cina Hoey. I also have a private Facebook group that anyone is welcome to join if they have issues with food and binge eating and emotional eating. It's called Binge to Balance, of course. Um, and yeah, I would love to hear from anyone. I would love to connect with anyone watching. It is very much a passion of mine to just help other women through this however I can. So um, feel free, anyone watching, to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
absolutely, I love that. Everything she said will be in the description of this video. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I have loved being here with you. I love the work that you do. And I'm so grateful to have had the chance to chat with you today.
You have such a sweet spirit. Can I just say you?
Oh, you too.
Thank
You
you.
too. You're authentic and you're genuine. That's what people need.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Bye.